To Lavender Live. I'm Chelsea Castle, your host for today, and we have a very special guest who needs no introduction. We'll be talking about video prospecting with the one and only Marcus Chan. Hey, Marcus.
What is up, Chelsea? I'm pumped to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much. We're pumped to have you too. For anyone who doesn't know, which is probably no one, I'm sure everyone knows Marcus. He is a legend of all things sales. Wait, did I just say legend? I think I've been hanging out with Waiken way too much. But you are a legend. Marcus is a pro and expert on everything from cold calling to all aspects of full cycle, everything in between. Today, we're going to be talking about video prospecting. Before I start with my first question, do you want to give a quick intro to the audience, Marcus, on who you are?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm definitely no legend. I'm simply a guy who started in the field, has made thousands of mistakes, and I just hope to impart upon some of the learnings I've made from all the mistakes I've had. I was in B2B sales for a long time, for over a decade. I've been running a business now for over 4 years, helping sales teams and reps double their sales results in less than 90 days. Also wrote a book too, Wall Street Journal best-selling book, so that's pretty cool too. But I'm just pumped to be here.
Awesome. I love your humbleness. I think in one of your podcasts I listened to, you mentioned how you still just kind of feel like that young, introverted, shy kid.
Mhm.
And I relate to that. And I think that's a good thing to think about going into this topic of video, because you're kind of being vulnerable, right? Putting your face on a recording and sending it to someone, especially a stranger. So it can be a hard thing to do.
Totally, 100%. It's kind of awkward to be real. So it takes a little bit to kind of get used to, and it took me a long time, and it's still something I still have to work on, regardless.
I hear that. So Marcus, we like to start these lives by answering the number one most important thing on this topic that you want the audience to know about video prospecting.
I think probably the most important thing to know about video prospecting is it works if you do it well. Just like anything else, whether it's cold call, cold email, etc. Some people say, "Oh, it doesn't really work. I've tried before." My challenge to you is, how effectively are you doing it? And we'll talk about some of the strategies today, from all the small details and the nuances that can actually make your cold emails or cold video emails actually be bangers and actually get responses and help you book meetings. But also on top of that, I mean, depending on how deep we go, how do you use video to actually move deals through your pipeline as well, as long as you do it well?
I hear that. If you do it, you got to do it well. Probably takes practice too, just like anything else. You need to exercise that
100%.
muscle, keep practicing,
100%.
you get more comfortable. I know that's true for me with these and other things on video. So let's start there then. You mentioned some strategies. What would you say, what is your advice to someone who's kind of just getting started with video for the first time?
Well, first of all, if you're starting to get off the video, I'm gonna go through all kind of the small kind of learning curves I went through and some mistakes I made, because hopefully that'll help. Like, first off, when you're doing video, just internalize and know it's gonna feel a little bit awkward. So when you're gonna be sending your first couple of video emails, start off with just turning on video or Loom, whatever you're gonna use, and just run through it several times what you're going to say. So have a script written out, what you're going to say, have some frameworks you're going to follow, and run through multiple times first, just so you get used to talking on camera, looking at a camera, doing that. That's going to just automatically going to help you. Now, a few other things that's going to help as well is be really clear on what your goal is of the video and the email, because all the nuances really, really matter here. So, when you're crafting the email, from the subject line to what's in the body to the GIF you're going to put inside there, all those things matter, right? They all matter. So meaning, and obviously if you're using Lavender's tool, it's going to help you, but like, is your subject line going to get open rates, right? If they don't open the video, if they don't open the email, they're not going to watch the video, right? The first couple lines help drive towards them watching the video. Again, has to be well written and simple and making curious. Otherwise, again, they're not going to watch the video. How about the GIF you put in there? Is it a GIF or image you put in there that's clearly customized to them? So one of the worst things I did early on, or the mistakes I made early on, was I'll work really hard to create this really awesome short video customized for this prospect. And the GIF or image I had there wasn't clear it was made for them and didn't get their attention. And your goal of that GIF or the image is to get them to click on it and know it's made for them. So for example, one of the things that really has worked really well for me personally and for people I've taught is even that GIF. When you're filming the video, you can pull a GIF. Like if you're filming that video, pull something up that's clearly customized to them. So for example, this could be their LinkedIn profile. That's really, really nice. Or even as simple as a big Google slide says, hi, their name. And you have it like maxed out and your head's on there as well. So clearly when they see the GIF of that part, they're like, oh, wait, this is actually made for me. So that even the little tweaks are there, really, really important. Now, when you go into filming the video, there are small things that over time you'll just kind of realize and learn. Like I learned, like, for example, you don't need, like, this is a pretty high quality camera that I'm recording through right now, but you don't need the most high quality camera. But if you have good light, if you have good lighting, that can make it drastically better, right? Just having good lighting and even an average camera. So having good lighting is really, really important. Also taking note as well, even the background, like what's everything look like? Is your background look curated and nice, or can you see a bunch of dirty dishes behind you, etc.? So all those things kind of matter to how you show up, etc., to how you actually show up in a video. But if you didn't just kind of start off with in terms of video, I think I probably threw too much there, but that's a handful of items to start with for doing video.
No, that's super great. So intro copy, kind of what's leading up to the
Yeah.
video is really important,
Mhm.
right? So
Mhm.
first step, once you've gotten them to open your email,
Mhm.
then hopefully they click on your video. But the setup copy is really important to make sure that they actually click through. So do you have any tips? That was like one of the first things you mentioned. So I'm just kind of going through all your tips there.
Absolutely,
What's
absolutely. So
your recommendation there?
I personally like really simple, and I love to leverage curiosity, right? So even as simple as hi, hi name, made this for you, smiley face, and then you have your gift below. Even something as simple as that. Like I've tested all types of things. For that's probably one of the simplest ones I've written. It just seems to just like, oh, interesting. That they click on it, has a really high click through rate as a result. So literally that simple. Hi name, made this for you. If you want to do smiley face or emoji, that's always a nice little touch. And then that GIF that you put right inside there. Really simple. That's it.
Cool. Cool. So you're pro emoji, pro GIF.
I
Talk
love it.
about
Yep.
intro copy.
Mhm.
Kind of some good tips for getting started with your camera. You don't need anything fancy. If you don't have a light, always face a window, have the light on you.
Exactly.
What about tools for someone who is maybe intimidated by I don't have a fancy editor or a tool? What sort of tools can people leverage if they're just like a one person show and not sure what to do or
Great.
what to use?
Great question. So I've used there's actually a lot of really great free tools. Obviously, when you pay for more access to those tools, you get more features. But even if you start off with say like Vidyard's awesome. I've used Vidyard for a long time. I've used Loom as well. Both are really great tools where you can set up a free account, and then you don't need any editing tools. I mean, you can still like you can cut the beginning and end if you want, but I like to go simple. So, and this is why I think it's important to get some run throughs as well, because it's you don't need a perfect video. In fact, you want it to be like human, but also build trust as well. That's really important. If it's almost like too polished, like too let's call it corporate-y, if you will, like a commercial, then your chances of them even replying or responding or doing anything with that are going to go down. So it should be something that's going to feel like personal to them. So even if ideally it's going to be like you run through, you record it. If you need to trim the beginning and end off, that should be as simple as that. But in this way, you have a good 30-second to a minute clip that you can then utilize as part of inside the email to send to them.
Love that. Yeah, so lean into being just authentic and raw and imperfect. Love
Yeah, and
that.
I forgot to mention as well. This is important because I've seen this mistake happen sometimes. Is it's not downloading video and attaching it because then the email is really heavy, and that might go to spam. It might get blocked off. They're going to be resistant to open it. You're better off. It's an embedded GIF with a link to that Loom or Vidyard, so it takes them to a page that actually see all that stuff.
Cool. Someone in the chat mentioned mic. So I don't have a fancy camera. I do have a ring light and I just got the Blue Yeti here, which is a cost effective, I
Mhm.
kind of like first step. So if someone,
Mhm.
I think audio, in my opinion, curious if it's yours as well, to kind of maybe focus on optimizing audio first. If you kind of have
Good,
to
good question. This,
choose
this
from
is
like a
interesting.
budget perspective.
So I think in my opinion, the most important thing when you're doing video is building the habit of doing the video. I
Mm,
think that's about the most important thing. Um, for sure, having a nice camera, this is like a high quality mic, those all really add to it for sure. But early on, it's actually far more important how you are building that habit and that muscle of doing it, and how you show up on camera. That's really really important. Like The only exceptions would be like, let's just say, for example, if you're filming in really loud areas and you don't have a
Mhm.
mic, that does make it really hard. So if you're trying to film in an airport and there's a lot of background noise, you can hear like things going off. That distracts from the video. So obviously you want to be in a quiet place, but when you're starting off, it's building the habit. I would just keep it as low friction as possible for yourself to do, which is just use a camera on your laptop, use a mic on your laptop. Start with that first, and then eventually, if you have a headset or if you have a mic, it's great. Not necessary, because more importantly is how you actually show up on camera. Over time, you can get high quality stuff, right? Like for example, like this is my setup. It's always set up. I have the camera always plugged in. I have this always set up. It's always good to go, and it's high quality. But I didn't get this when I started. Okay,
Mhm.
this is like years. I want to enhance it. And I'm also filming YouTube videos and other things as well, so it's a little bit different for my use case.
Perfect. Yeah, just kind of get started, worry about
Yeah,
perfection, tools, etc. later.
exactly,
Love that.
exactly.
Um, so we're talking about using video for prospecting, obviously, but are there certain, you don't necessarily want to use video in your first in your first touch, right? As a cold email. When would you say it makes sense to use video and when does it make sense to not use video?
So really good question. And I would say I've used it even on first touch as well,
Okay.
right? Everyone's got different opinions, right? And I think everyone's right to a certain extent because in some cases it's going to work better. I find videos just really powerful. I actually like it at all stages of the process, from super top of the funnel all the way through the end. And obviously, each video is going to be different, have a different goal in mind and what you're trying to do with it. But I find it to be really useful at all parts of it, right? Everyone's got different opinions about it, but like I'm thinking to myself, if I'm going to be, if I'm an enterprise rep and I only have so many accounts in my book that I'm going to be working on and going after, I want to make it really clear that I'm a pro, I'm a standout, and because I practice over time, I'm okay on camera. So I know if I could like get them to like just see me on camera, they hopefully will. I can like there's things you can. Let me back up. There's things you can leverage with video. It's hard to do with just like email copy. So for example, on video, they can see my eyes, which helps gain human trust. They can see my face. They can see my body language. They can see how I'm talking. They can see my environment. All those things within a few seconds allow that the receiver to judge very quickly: is this person credible? Can I trust them? And do I want to engage with them? Those are all really powerful. With copy, which I still love copy, I still love emails, etc. They can kind of get a pretty good gauge, right? But the video is so powerful; it cuts you in a whole different way. Because number one, most people are scared to do it, so that means number two, you'll stand out when you do it. So I actually like for all parts of the process.
Cool. I love that. Okay. So someone was asking also about subject lines. So when you're setting an email with a video in it, should you kind of lean into curiosity to write an optimal subject line? Should you give them a hint that there's a video made just for them inside? What are your thoughts on a subject line?
Yeah, so I've tested them all, and they all seem to work pretty well, right? Um, Sometimes I find again the simpler the better, right? Even if it's like their name, thought you might like this. They're like, "Oh, what's this? Interesting." They open it up, and then they see it made for them. They're like, "What's this all about?" Right? I've done even simple as question mark or
Just a
interested
question
question mark.
mark in the subject
Yeah,
line.
it's.
Cool.
I mean, ultimately, like, what's my goal is like I want to get them to open the email, watch the video, and respond, and hopefully book a time. Right? Like that's my number one goal. Right? So I find when I actually would overcomplicate a subject line, it actually would have worse results.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So think about the content of the video itself. If
Mhm.
you're recommending to use, video can be optimal across all stages of communication. Let's talk about the content of the video. Do you use a script every time? When do you not use a script? I know some people will kind of have like a boilerplate, maybe 15, 30 seconds. So then they'll add like a personalized snippet at the beginning or end. Like talk to us about optimal content of video and how you go about
Great.
that.
So I'm a firm believer, and whether you want to call it a script or framework, to me it's interchangeable. But I believe you should have an idea about what you want to cover on the video, right? Like otherwise, what ends up happening is you end up rambling. At least I'll start rambling, and before I know, my goal of making that video 30 to 60 seconds is now like a minute 30, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And now I know the longer it goes for a cold email, the less likely they are to actually watch that video and even respond. So I want to keep it as like short and condensed as possible. So for me personally, I like to write out what the script's going to be. Now, if you're doing a lot of these, it's going to be pretty similar across the board, right? Really similar. This makes it really, really nice. Now, and there's a couple of different frameworks you can do. You can either do there's going to be like I call it like more of a pain or problem framework, if you will, where you're kind of leading with the potential pain of the industry going or the ICP going after. That's one, which would be relatively consistent. And another one is you could identify a legitimate problem on their site, or some sort of data points you can actually show them, and you might show more things on your screen. That's gonna be a little less scripted, just because you probably do like almost a live mini demo. That's gonna be like less than a minute long. All right, so that one's gonna be probably a little more fluid, a little harder to do. So you want to be pretty good on camera to be able to do that, because again, they need to trust you. And if you sound like really boring and dry, it's not gonna really work. All right. So to give you an example, let's kind of walk through some frameworks, because that's this way people have an idea. I think a really simple framework could be literally simple as, "Hey name," right? And from what you say, so be, "Hey name," you say the name, "Hey Marcus," "Hey Lisa," "Hey whatever." Super simple, right? You don't always be the same. Ideally, your next script line or framework line, some sort of personalization, right? So you kind of see this is actually really similar to like even a good cold email, right? It's almost the verb, almost like saying what, yeah, you could probably use Lavender to write you a script, if you will. So you have a personalization line, right? That's kind of like, name, personalization line, and then something to show you understand their potential symptomatic pains or problems, right? Very short amount, and then a soft CTA. So let me just kind of spitball an example here. So for example, it might be like, "Hey Chelsea, congrats on hitting the number 487 on Inc. 5000 list. That's an amazing achievement since you only started business 4 years ago." Now, in chat with other CEOs that are fast-growing startups in the HRIS space, they're usually run into a few different growing pains, such as recruiting and hiring the top talent. I actually have a couple of creative ideas to help. Let me know if you open a chat. Either way, no worries. Talk soon. See ya. So you can see it's like basically it's the same framework I just told you. It's really simple. It's pretty direct, and it's very indifferent. I'm not trying to pitch my solution. I'm not trying to say how awesome I am. I'm simply saying, "Hey, name," some sort of personalization line, make them feel good, and then very relevant pains, probably based off their persona, and a very soft CTA. All right. No, "Hey, book a calendar call, book a look at my calendar here, book this here. Hey,
No.
open a chat more." That's it. Super simple.
Mhm.
And if you notice, that's really similar to actually really good cold emails too. So it's like it's very, very similar. You're basically just using it as a framework to just verbalize instead. And it becomes very human now because how you deliver it.
That's so great. Yeah. And I would actually be interested in people trying out some of our lavender frameworks via video. Cause like you said, you're doing
Mm-hmm.
the same thing. The personalization call out is interesting to me. So for anyone who uses or doesn't use lavender, the personalization assistant will give
Mm-hmm.
you data and research about your
Mm,
recipient, right? But there's also a
beautiful.
personality tab where you can dig a little deeper into the person's personality and we'll give you
Mm-hmm.
recommendations on like what to say and what not to say. So I've never thought about this until now, until you just said it, but it would be really fascinating to use some of those insights in video because you're able to come across, if our data is telling you to be clear and confident and ask these types of questions, it's going to be easier to get that across and probably more powerful doing that via video than just copy. So that'd be really cool for
100%.
someone to try.
100%. You're basically taking like that concept, essentially, you're taking that good cold email and you're humanizing it now. You're just humanizing it to them. And I mentioned before, as a quick reminder, like when you're on video sharing this, you're talking to the camera, for this little short clip, you're also screen sharing. I should mention you're screen sharing
Mm.
something it's clearly personalized to them. So that could be their LinkedIn profile or that Google slide I mentioned, right? Ideally, I find it's better, it's more personalized to them versus like a company website. So we'll do a company website, which it still kind of works, but it seems to come off almost generic still. Versus, oh, that's actually my face that I can see in the background of the LinkedIn profile. Oh, that's my name you actually wrote out there. So that's really powerful when you can customize that level as well, because then it's clearly made for them, and not some sort of advanced AI bot, which I'm sure eventually down the road that'll happen too.
Yeah, I think there's AI videos now where you can
Yeah, I've
just
seen
like
them.
not do any of the work
I've
and
seen some of those. Yeah, I've seen them. Yeah.
kind of creepy. Some of them will even like have you speak in a different language, which is like a
Yeah,
whole other, that could be a
that's crazy.
whole
Yeah.
other life. We've got a lot of great questions in the chat, so I want to ask one more question to you, and then I'd love to kind of get some of those questions answered since there's
Sure,
a lot of really good ones in there. So,
sure.
what would you say are some of the top mistakes that people make when it comes to video and prospecting?
See, a few different mistakes I see is number one, not being really cognizant of how they show up on camera. So how you show up on camera, it's almost as if once the camera's on, you want you to imagine like you're on a show now. That's really it. You're on a show, you're about to perform, and that's the mentality you want to have. Now, you don't want to be someone you're not. It's really important to be authentic and be you, but you also don't want to be like, "Hi, Chelsea. My name is Marcus. I was scrolling your LinkedIn profile." I mean, that you're gonna lose them, right? So you want to think about and really control what I call PITA, which is what's your pace like, what's your inflection like, what's your tonality, and what's your attitude. That's
Oh, that's
really
so good.
important. Yeah, really important because on how you speak and how you deliver, because it's how you can capture and engage them and hook them in. And all those things really matter. So that's why it's like you want to practice so you can get to the point of in your own style, your own flavor, showing up with the right pace, inflection, tonality, and attitude, the right body language. So this way, you're able to give 100%. Because if you're going to put the hard work into recording a video, you might as well control all those little elements that you can't control. All right. So that also means, like I mentioned, background looks good, right? Some people use kind of like the fake backgrounds, etc. I think you're better off having like a blank wall than a fake background, in my personal opinion. I think it just makes it more human, more realistic, right? Make sure the lighting's good. I mentioned. Make sure your audio is pretty good, so your mic is relatively close to your mouth. If it's your laptop, because it's pretty close. I also think it's important to adjust your laptop so you are more your eye length,
Mhm.
your eyeball height, if you will. Because sometimes I've seen some videos come through, and they're looking at their laptop, so they're
You
kind of
want to
like
be like all the way
like
back
this,
here.
like this,
Right?
like I can see your
Yeah.
chin. It's like so all those things really matter. And then continue to refine over time. So your first video is probably gonna be terrible. Mine was. In fact, my first probably 100 videos are pretty awful. But the more you do it, the easier it gets. So I would say, on top of just being aware of that, take time to practice and like you practice over and over so you get better over time, and you'll see you'll get better. And you can practice in many different ways. So imagine, and just to give you an example, because building that muscle, right? Imagine your friend iMessages you, text you something, right? And you instead of you dropping an audio note or long lengthy message, hit record on a video, film a quick video. Just hold your phone, boom, and riff a video. It's like those little things that can really help you build that muscle and get really comfortable being on camera. Because I saw a comment here, but like to this day, I now have probably thousands of hours of my video all around the web. I still hate the way I look and sound. Okay. I still hate the way I look. I think I look goofy. I think I sound terrible. All my insecurities come out. But I do it anyways because now it's a habit, it's a muscle. So just take that time to kind of practice it. So eventually, you'll just deal with not liking yourself on video, but you'll do it anyways because it's gonna get you results.
I love that. The fact that you've done this for so long and so well and you still feel that way, that's also just like empowering, I think, to hear for anyone who maybe feels uncomfortable. Just keep remembering that it's an exercise, it's a
Yeah,
practice. Just like when you first go to the gym, you're like probably going to be weak. Start with the 5 pounder,
that's
and
it.
just the more you do it, the stronger you get, the better you get. So we had a question also about how do you decide when you use a video the first time? Like, how do you decide if you're going to use a video in your first touch or not, second touch? How do you kind of make that decision from a strategical standpoint?
So I'll in any game I play, I have to look at the rules of the game. I think it's the first mental model to kind of think through. And what I mean by that, a lot of it depends on your role and what you're being measured by. So let me give you a really simple example. Let's just say if you are an SDR, BDR, and you're measured on making 100 calls a day, sending like 30 emails a day, and that's one of your big KPIs. It's really hard to do video for all those without tech, without like, basically AI tech. It's gonna be really hard. So, versus if you're an enterprise AE and you're working your own opportunities, you could definitely test early on, like, very first touch if you want, or second touch as well. I think that's really powerful. I think it depends on what level of outreach you want to do, because obviously, as of right now, the current technology of a high quality personalized video, it is the hardest to scale because it requires you physically recording a video and doing the time, and it takes effort. And even like from a speed perspective. Even me now, like for me to rip a video, throw it into my CRM or my email from my CRM, load it up, it'll take me about 3 minutes. So that's three. That's assuming I only mess up on the first time I record it, which sometimes I do. So 3 minutes. If you, I mean, you do like 10 videos, suddenly that's like 30 minutes, just like that. Boom. Right. And you haven't done really that much yet. So you want to know like where your KPIs are, what you're held to, and decide from there. Because obviously, if you need to do high volume because of the role you're in, it's much harder. You might want to do it deeper into your funnel, right? For more, maybe better prospects. If if you're working at really large enterprise opportunities, you probably want to start a little bit earlier, in my opinion, so you can really leverage that component as well. And that's more so for the intro part as well. Okay. Now, if you already have here's a point as well. If you already have a good sequence that it's already working really well, I wouldn't want to change too much, in my opinion. So it's important to have some of this critical thinking skill. So, for example, if you know the first 4 emails you're sending on your sequences, they're bangers. They crush. I mean, you have really high open rates, pretty good response rates. You're like, that's pretty good. Now, instead of trying to change everything, completely change up the whole cadence, right? How do you want to insert maybe a video? Maybe it's okay. You know what? Maybe I'm gonna keep the first to be the same, and the fourth I'm gonna switch to a video if we haven't heard from them yet. Right. So you want to apply some critical thinking skills. It's not necessarily like, hey, every time do it this way. Take a look at your situation, decide what's going to be best for you, and test it. Because the worst thing that can happen is you do it for a while and you have enough data points. So you do at least like 100, and then you can have some data based off. Okay, is it going well? But more importantly, you have to challenge yourself and say, if I was receiving this, would I open this email? Would I click this GIF? And would I watch and would I respond? If the answer is no, again, just like I mentioned from earlier, if it's a bad video, it's not going to work. It's not going to work at all.
Yep. That's so good. That actually is similar to a question somebody left in the chat about personalization at scale or video at scale, which, at Lavender, we tend to think as personalization at scale is a bit of an oxymoron because you're taking a very personal touch. So for video, would you say it's similar, that if you're going to do video, it's more for, like a higher touch rather than something that you do for everyone?
Yeah, exactly right. Because it's especially if you are required to make so many cold calls and emails in a week, it can be really tricky. Just realistically, unless you want to work 100 hours a week, which most people don't, it's going to be really tricky to try to do personal videos for every single one. That's why, and it's kind of like the opposite effect where it's like I've seen some people they record a video one time and they think they're being clever by like not saying their name. They're like, "Hey, made you this quick video." It's like, okay, I know you didn't make that for me. I know it's a really generic video that you just filmed for everybody, and I think it has the opposite effect as a result. So you want to take consideration your situation and make the best judgment call for your situation, and not put yourself in hot water. If you're like, I'm gonna start sending out video emails every single day, and then suddenly your KPIs go down, your boss is all over you because of that.
Good point. Another person asked about length, which I think is a really good question. Is there an optimal length? Obviously, we all have really short attention spans, probably shouldn't be too long.
Yeah.
Is there a length you recommend that we kind of aim for?
30 to 60 seconds, I find to be a pretty good length. Once you go beyond that, it's much harder. Now, sometimes I think in some situations I've seen it work well if it's a little bit longer. And that's more so if you are exposing something that you're showing them that could really be really relevant. So, for example, maybe you sell cybersecurity, maybe you have a tool that you were able to uncover that their website's been so someone tried to hack their website like maybe 4 times in the last 24 hours, and maybe people are cloning their site and basically trying to steal the customer information, right? And you're able to show that. So now your video might be a little bit longer, right? Because you might be like, hey, like, hey, so-and-so, my name is so-and-so with the company X. Hey, want to show you this really quick. I was actually on your site here, and this is, you pull the site up, and you can take a look at this tool here. And this in the last 24 hours, I'm not sure if you're aware, but you had 4 different hacking attempts from countries over here based on the IP addresses. On top of that, here's 2 dummy sites that they pulled up. And you see, this video is starting long, and you're showing these things. That might be a 2-minute video, 3-minute video, but it's so relevant to them that it may hook them because of that.
Yeah, that's really smart, actually. An AE sent me a video recently, and it was just like a screen share of how their SEO tool could help us. And they pulled up our data, pulled up our website, and went through all of the recommendations that their tool and that they, I think, as a consultancy would make. And It was a 3-minute video. I watched the
Yep.
whole thing only because it was so personalized, and this
Right.
is probably subjective to me, but I was like, "This
Right.
person took the time to make something just for me."
Right.
And I'm curious what they have to say. Maybe they uncovered a new insight, and I opened it and
100%.
watched it and
100%.
responded.
Great example.
I know we're at time. I had another question about yeah, I had another question, but I think we're at time. So thank you all for joining. Your questions were wonderful. Marcus, you were fantastic. The insights you shared are so helpful. Just thank you all for joining, and thank you again, Marcus, for coming.
Thanks for having me on. See you, everybody.